Good morning. This is the curse and blessing of having a last name that starts with A. I always have to go first, but then I get to be done first. So my name is Leslie. I grew up in a disciples church in Wichita, Kansas, and we would go every single Sunday, and I fought my parents every single Sunday that I did not want to go. And I had every excuse in the book. You know, these tights are too itchy, my shoes hurt, I'm tired, I have homework, I don't know anyone there, which was not true at all. I knew everybody there. But I didn't want to go, and I didn't want them to make me go, but every Sunday we went. And my parents, it was never a big fight, it was just like, hey, okay, you're going to say you don't want to go, we're going to say you have to go, so let's just go. And we did, and it was Sunday morning, we went to church. And as I got to be a teenager, it didn't get better, as you can imagine, if you have teenagers around. And then my argument started to be, well, as soon as I'm 18 and I go to college, I am never going to church. And you can't make me, because I'm going to college thousands of miles away from you, and you're not in charge of me. And God has a sense of humor, because I went away to the Naval Academy for college. And if you know anything about military academies, the first summer and the first year are pretty hard. It's a lot of yelling, a lot of push-ups, a lot more yelling, and more push-ups. And I quickly learned that Sunday mornings in church were the one time no one was going to yell at you or make you do push-ups. So I found my way to the Naval Academy Chapel, which is beautiful. It's a cathedral, it's gorgeous, it's air-conditioned, unlike the dorms in Maryland. So air conditioning, no yelling, and no push-ups were like my holy trinity that summer of going to church. So it was just a habit that I was in, and I stayed in. And even after graduating from the academy, I was in the Navy for 9 years. I lived in 10 different states, and every time I've moved, the first things I do in a new place are, I get a library card, I find a gym, and I find a church. And the disciples' faith, since that's what I grew up in, that was kind of the one I always looked at first in a new place. Sometimes it wasn't the exact right fit, so I kind of found Episcopalian also works for me, so we did that in a couple places. A little different, but it's similar traditions and songs and everything. My parents did, made us go to church every week. We did Sunday school, we did Wednesday night, Bible study type things, but they didn't make me get baptized when I was like, 13, 14, whatever age is kind of traditional for baptism. And I'm really thankful for them for not making me do that then, because I don't think it would have meant as much if it was just like kind of something that they felt I needed to do. So when I was 22 and I was in flight school in Texas, that's when I just kind of felt like, okay, now's the right time. And that, it really means something to me, because I chose it, and it was my faith, and it was my decision. And I'm glad that they didn't force me to do one of those big, life-changing things just because it was, the right age for me to do it. So I got to do that on my own. And now, as an adult, I'm sure you've seen me dragging my 3 kids here every week, against their will most of the time, but I tell them, I know all your tricks, I know all your excuses, because I tried them out myself, 30 years ago, so, keep trying, but we're still going to keep going. And so I would just ask, when you see parents with young kids or teenagers, and those kids look like they want to be anywhere else, and they're reading a book, and it doesn't look like they're paying attention, just give them, their parents, a lot of grace, because I think here's where the foundation of faith is built, brick by brick, the foundation is laid, and even if it doesn't look like they're paying attention or caring or want to be there, I think it's being slowly built, those bricks, and then when they're grown-ups and they can decide on their own, they can put the walls on the house and the roof on the house, but here's where the foundation is laid, and I think we can all do it together with a lot of grace and faith and prayer and patience. So, thank you.
Now do some push-ups for us. Yeah.
Sunday morning.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Since I have 3 to 4 minutes to speak, I'm going to dive right on in. First off, I was not raised in a family where we went to church on Sundays, so I have lived much of my life as a theist. A theist, not an atheist, a theist. My beliefs have always aligned with Christianity. However, I was never formally baptized until later in my life. My faith journey starts with the Marines. While in the Marines as an infantry assaultman specializing in demolitions and rockets for frontline infantrymen, faith was a very small slice of my life pie at the time. That faith slice of my life pie about doubled after my deployment to Helmand Province, Afghanistan in 2010. Throughout that entire deployment, it just seemed like there was someone always watching over me and guiding me. I was always on patrol, away from the patrol base when trucks arrived with dismembered bodies. Taliban ambushes always took place before my squad arrived. And out of the 250 patrols and 30 convoys I was on, not one person was shot or hit with an enemy improvised explosive device. That's pretty much unheard of. Fast forwarding 2 years, I got out of the Marines and went to college. I was fortunate enough to come across Blake Leach, who happened to be a Purple Heart recipient and who served in Iraq and was a devout Christian. He got me a job with the Illinois Department of Veteran Affairs and really helped me grow my faith. Blake was a veteran service officer for Coles County, so he was helping veterans process claims. While working with Blake one day, a Vietnam veteran came in with the biggest smile on his face. I asked him how he's doing, and he's like, "I'm doing good, God is good." I'm like, okay. That was a little bit of an over-the-top response, but I said, I'm happy to hear that you're doing so well. While the veteran was waiting to talk to Blake at the VSO, he said, "Jake, do you believe in God?" I said, "I do, but I probably do not invest as much time as I should." He said, "Jake, give me a sheet of paper and scissors, please." So I was kind of thrown off, right? Paper, scissors. I just didn't understand the connection there, but I did what he said, and he was going at it on this paper like Bob Ross does with his pen except with paper. And in a matter of minutes, he formed these letters on my desk. These letters formed 2 words: heaven and hell. He said, "Jake, we are all a piece of paper, and we have to choose the path that leads us to one of these 2 destinations. Jake, what is it that you want out of life?" I smiled, and I was like, man, if I can just get, good friends, get a decent job, a home, and have a partner in crime to share a life with someday, that would be great. He said, "Jake, start investing more time in God, and I'm telling you, God will get you that job, put that girl you seek in the passenger seat of your car, in a house you can call home." So, of course, at the time, I'm like, yeah, okay, great guy, very nice. Blake from the back office calls for the man, and about 30 minutes later, that Vietnam veteran left with a smile on his face and exited saying, "God bless, and do not forget what we talked about." This is my second time through, people, and I'm still choking up, so I apologize. To my surprise, that man passed 2 weeks later. He had some severe cancer from Agent Orange exposure during Vietnam. And to my surprise, everything that he said happened in that exact order. God never gave up on me. My entire life, He watched over me and guided me to the people that would help me grow my faith. This church has been instrumental in my faith journey. I was introduced to Rotary at this church. I was baptized at this church. I got married in this church, and I've met a lot of friends in this church. This church has grown my faith slice of life pie, and I could honestly not be more thankful. Faith is a journey, and somehow I came across the right people at the right time. To that Vietnam veteran I met 5 years ago, thank you, and may my path be the one you traveled. Thank you.
I heard both Leslie and Jake earlier, and I'm still going to say, wow. Doug asked me to speak today, and I said, well, sure, I can do it. Everybody who knows me here knows I love to talk. But then I thought, you don't very often get asked to talk about yourself. And as I worked on it and laid in bed and thought about it and everything else, I found that it's a more difficult task than you can imagine to try and explain your faith journey to other people. And also to talk about yourself, because hopefully, well, I'd like to think I'm a little bit more humble than that. But anyway, I'll share. I've thought and prayed about what my faith journey to this point in life has been, and I realized that my understanding of my relationship with God started when I was about 20. And if I had to give you a name for this witness today, it's called Skiing with God in Indiana. There you go. I never actually got to ski, but that was the plan. On the winter break from college, I decided I wanted to learn to downhill ski. So I packed my Honda Civic, and as I told Susie earlier, which at the time I think were made of Campbell soup cans because they were super light. So I packed my Civic and I drove to Champaign to visit my brother for an evening, and the next morning I headed out to central South Indiana, where everyone goes to ski. Anyone who has been near that area knows that eventually you have to take the blue highways. No more interstates. So it's snowing, and I moved on to what my father would have called the hard road. And my car just dies. I'm about 15 miles from anywhere, with no cell phone, of course, because it's 1979. I don't remember how long I waited, but a sedan pulls up, and Herb Morris, probably in his 70s, gets out and asks me if I needed help. So he offers to drive me to the next town, where he tells me there's an auto repair that would come out and tow my car. So I climb into the back seat of Herb's car, and I meet his wife Anita, and I'm sharing the back seat with 97-year-old Irene, a friend of theirs who they'd just taken to a doctor's appointment. We get to the repair shop, make arrangements, and then I offer to take Herb, Anita, and Irene to lunch. Well, they immediately accept and drive me to their favorite buffet. So the four of us shared a meal, and boy, could Herb, Anita, and Irene eat. But during that meal, I learned that Herb and Anita had had a son who died tragically as an adult in a diving accident. I learned that Irene didn't have any family, but Herb and Anita took care of her. And they listened and probably laughed about the fact that I had skiing plans in central South Indiana. The best part of the whole thing was that four people came together and shared a meal of Christian fellowship on a snowy day in Indiana. My car was fixed, and they went on their way, and I made it to Paoli Peaks, but I didn't learn how to ski that day. My family would tell you I didn't learn how to ski since then, but we might argue.
There's video proof.
As time passed, I realized that Herb and Company were much more than good Samaritans traveling the roads of Indiana. But they were God's voice speaking to me. He was saying, I will care for you and I will bring you what you need. The other side of the coin took a bit more time. And that was that I was put in their path. And I was put in their path to allow them to exercise the fact that we can all voice God. We can all help speak God's voice to people around us. We were brought together not only to listen and to share and to commune with each other. We were there to actually be the voice of God. I have continually been aware of God speaking to me through other people, and God putting people in my path that I have needed and that have needed me. And this happens every day, everywhere. When I look out at the people sitting here, I think you all have spoken the voice of God to me at some point in time. But first, I am sure that God made my husband blind and deaf to all the trouble that I might cause him in his life, and he married me anyway. And for that, I am grateful every day of my life, and his love is truly more than I deserve. God also in my life brought me a breast cancer surgeon whose very first words to me, hadn't met her before in my life, walked in the door, said, "We got this." What I heard was, turn it over to God and He will be there. I have learned that in my own adversities, I can be positive for those people around me and for those working to help me through whatever it is that I'm going. Poor Vicky got the job of taking me to the ER for colitis, what we thought it was, but found out that I had kidney cancer. My best friend was a wreck, calling Rich and JC to get out there, and I was calm. And the nurse came in and slightly unnerved about the whole thing and said, I heard you got bad news. And I said, no, I just got news. Because Rich and I had been through the cancer thing 3 times, and we know that God takes care of us. God was with me, and He always had been. And I think that those people around me who were upset and fearful and worried were doing that for me so that I could channel God's calm. So my father died in 2011, and my mother died in 2017. And the week my mother died, she said to me, "Your father told me it would not be long." She was comforted by that vision, and I was comforted knowing that there's a better place for us, that there is that house with many rooms, and that once again, God spoke through her for all of us. God speaks to me through the people that have come and gone in my life, and some have stayed, and I am blessed by them. In turn, I realize that we all are and can be God's voice in this world. We need to listen, we need to speak, we need to share, we need to care. I see it in the people I'm looking at right now, because I know that you're God's family, but I also know that you're my family. God bless you.